Mongolia, 50 degrees below zero. In conditions like these, modern tents turn into deathly ice traps in a matter of minutes. Yet, this ancient structure of wool and wood has withstood these extreme frosts for millennia. How do the physics of aerodynamics and unique thermoregulation make the yurt outperform modern technology? Today, we're doing a full engineering breakdown of this masterpiece. Welcome to Terra Technica.
Imagine stepping out of your home at night, and the cold isn't just unpleasant, it behaves like a physical force. The air tightens around your chest as if someone is pulling a leather belt. Every breath is dry and sharp, and the wind on the steppe doesn't just blow, it polishes. It finds the smallest gap in your clothing, entering like a blade, and in seconds, it steals the heat your body gathered over minutes. Now imagine one more thing. There is no forest around, no wooden houses, and no stone walls. There is only endless space, snow, and darkness. And somewhere in this void stands a round silhouette, low, devoid of sharp angles, like a part of the landscape itself. A thin column of smoke rises above it, and inside, there is life. How is this possible? How can one live in a portable dwelling where the frost drops to minus 50 degrees Celsius and the wind makes any temperature feel even harsher? How can one not just endure the night, but create a routine where you can work, prepare food, and raise children day after day, year after year? Today we are talking about the Mongolian yurt, known in Mongolian as the ger. And it is crucial to immediately dismiss a common misconception. The ger is not a tourist tent, and it is definitely not a decorative piece for an ethno-festival. This is technology, the technology of survival in the steppe, where humanity doesn't defeat nature, but learns to negotiate with the elements. Let's ask a simple question. What exactly kills a person in such extreme cold? It is not just the number on a thermometer. The main enemy is the combination of three things: wind, moisture, and fatigue. Wind strips away the warm layer of air next to the body at a speed you simply cannot compensate for. Moisture steals heat 25 times faster than dry air, and fatigue and hunger make the body weak. It loses the resource to maintain its temperature, and a person begins to slowly fade, often without even realizing it. The ger is round. It sounds almost trivial until you try to place any house with corners against the prevailing steppe wind. Corners are where the air catches, creating pressure zones and undermining the structure. The circle is streamlined. This is not an abstraction. This is measurable physics. The low profile reduces the sail effect. The roof smoothly rises to the center, and the wind, instead of pushing against the wall, glides upward and onward. This is not poetry. This is basic aerodynamics that people felt with their own bodies, where there was less shaking, less whistling, and where the ropes do not tear at night. The typical diameter of a ger is 4 to 6 meters. The height in the center is about 2.5 meters. This gives an interior area of 12 to 30 square meters, enough for a family of 6 plus their supplies. But the area isn't the point. The main thing is that this shape allows for a stable thermal regime with minimum energy expenditure. And now, the material. The main insulation of the ger is felt, made from sheep's wool. Wool is not just a luxury. It is a highly engineered biomaterial capable of trapping air pockets with incredible efficiency. This is a natural material that locks air between its fibers, and air, as we know, is the best insulator, provided it doesn't flow freely. Felt transforms the wool into a dense layer with millions of tiny air chambers acting as a barrier. Layering is crucial in winter mode. A single felt layer provides basic protection. 2 layers mean 10 to 15 centimeters of insulation. 3 layers constitute true winter armor. And this is where it becomes clear why the nomadic economy is so tied to animals. The herd provides the wool provides the felt, and the felt provides life. To make one full covering for a ger, it requires the wool of approximately 30 to 50 sheep. This is immense labor, shearing, washing, rolling, and drying to form the heavy felt sheets. But this is life-saving work, because felt is not just insulation, it is the technology that allows a mobile herd to be transformed into a portable sanctuary. However, the gur is more than just a warm shell. It is a cleverly ventilated system, and this is where the most complex part of the engineering begins. In the center of the roof, there is a round opening, the smoke hole, known as the tonneau. Its diameter is about 50 to 70 centimeters. This is no accident. This is the master regulator. It determines whether you will stay warm and safe, or if you will suffocate from smoke or freeze from an excessive draft. Fire in an enclosed space is always a calculated risk. If the ventilation is blocked too much, carbon monoxide accumulates and it can kill a person in under an hour. But if it is open too wide, your precious heat flies straight into the sky, leaving the inside barely warmer than the frozen steppe. Therefore, the Mongols didn't just light a fire. They managed the draft as a complex aerodynamic system. They opened and closed the vent with a special valve, shifting its position based on the wind's direction. They maintained combustion so the smoke rose in a clear, steady flow, rather than spreading through the dwelling. This is a skill passed down through generations. It is the ancient ability to read the smoke, feel the draft, and anticipate how the fire will behave when the weather shifts. And here is an important point that often surprises people from the city. The ger does not aim to create summer inside. It strives to create a controlled environment, a place where one can live without fatal risks. In severe frost, when the temperature drops to -40 or 50, inside the ger it might be anywhere from 0 to +10 degrees Celsius. No, it's not the 22 degrees of a modern apartment, but it is a massive difference. Because at 0 degrees, a person in dry clothing can sleep, move, and prepare food. But at -40 in the open air, a person without movement dies within hours. Comfort in the ger means the absence of wind, the presence of a steady fire, a dry sleeping place, and hot food. It is stability that won't collapse from a single gust of a storm. Underfoot, layers of felt and hides cut off the frozen ground. This is critically important, as the earth in winter turns into a giant refrigerator that steals your heat through direct contact. Near the walls, chests and supplies are stacked to create a second line of insulation. People sleep in thick clothes, often not fully undressing, wrapped in heavy wool blankets. And even if the air is not hot, the main thing is that it does not kill. Now, a vital question that defines the entire system. Where did they get fuel if there are no forests for hundreds of miles? In the steppe, wood is never a guaranteed resource. Trees are rare in the steppe, often growing miles away, and they simply won't last the winter. That is why a different system exists. The primary energy source, dry dung. Whether from cattle, horses, or camels, it depends on the region. Today, this might sound harsh to someone from the city, but once you understand the logic of this treeless landscape, everything falls into place. The dung is collected during summer and autumn while the livestock are grazing. It is laid out to dry in the sun, formed into briquettes, or simply stacked in piles. Dry dung burns evenly and for a long time, providing stable heat without dangerous flares. One single paddy can burn for 40 minutes to an hour. On average, between 10 and 15 kilograms of this fuel are needed every day, depending on the frost and the size of the ger. This is not a choice. This is an adaptation that makes fire possible where it would otherwise be an unattainable luxury. It demonstrates the core principle of steppe survival, utilizing everything the environment provides and wasting absolutely nothing. And at this moment, something else becomes clear. In Mongolian life, animals are not just a separate sector of the economy. They are the foundation upon which everything rests. Which animals were key? First and foremost, horses. The horse in the steppe represents mobility and the control of space. It is the ability to quickly find a better place for wintering if the current location proves unsuccessful. It is the ability to drive the herd to a new pasture when the forage is depleted. It is the power to transport cargo, react to threats, and escape danger. Without a horse, a nomad is confined to one spot. With a horse, they are a person who controls the horizon. Next are the sheep and goats. They provide the wool for felt, milk for food, and meat for survival. One sheep yields about 2 to 3 kilograms of wool per shearing. Milk is processed into yogurt, cheese, and butter. Meat provides the protein and fat that are critically important in freezing temperatures. Large cattle, cows, and yaks are vital sources of milk and fuel. Yaks are especially valuable in high altitudes because they withstand extreme conditions better than any other animal. Their milk is fattier, their wool is thicker, and their dung provides more energy as fuel. In drier areas, camels are essential. A camel can carry a load of up to 300 kilograms and travel without water for days. This is transport that works where even a horse falters. The principle is simple. The herd provides food, materials, fuel, and warmth. These are not just animals. They are living survival infrastructure. Now, let's talk about food. You can have the best yurt in the world, but if a person is undernourished, the cold will win in a week. In deep frost, the body expends energy constantly just to maintain its internal temperature. Warmth is work. The heart beats faster, muscles tense up, and the body shivers to generate heat. This costs calories, many calories. A person in freezing temperatures can spend 30 to 50% more energy than they would in warm weather. If there is not enough food, the body starts to burn its own reserves. It weakens, and the cold gains the final advantage. Therefore, food in the ger has two functions: to provide raw calories and to maintain a hot regime. A hot meal is not just about nutrition. It is a way to warm up from the inside, maintain strength, and restore energy after facing the frost. What did they cook? First and foremost is boiled meat. Mutton, beef, or horse meat, depending on what was available. Meat is boiled in large chunks in a heavy cauldron, adding fat and occasionally grains. These broths are thick, rich, and incredibly high in calories. This is the foundation of the winter diet. One serving of this broth can provide up to 1,000 calories, nearly a third of an adult's daily needs. The meat could be fresh or preserved, dried, salted, or naturally frozen. Supplies are crucial because winter is a season where a mistake in stock quickly becomes a tragedy. If supplies run out in February, 2 more months of severe cold lie ahead, and surviving that period is almost impossible without a strategy. Dairy products form another vital pillar of their diet. It is simply inconvenient to store milk in its liquid form when everything is prone to freezing solid. Therefore, fermentation and drying techniques were essential methods. These processes convert the product into a form that survives longer and tolerates the harsh conditions far better. Arag, fermented mare's milk, is one example, as are aru, dried cheese, butter, and yogurts. This is not just sustenance, it is a sophisticated strategy for preserving vital resources throughout the entire winter. And then there is the most essential element: water. Water in extreme frost is a paradox. There may be vast amounts of it in the form of snow, but it is completely unavailable in liquid form. Melting snow means spending precious fuel, time, and energy. Storing water means fighting to keep it from freezing by keeping it closer to the fire or in special containers inside the dwelling. Therefore, the entire daily routine is tied to the fire. Heating water, cooking food, drinking tea, everything happens when the fire is active so as not to waste fuel on reheating. Now, let's talk about hygiene. But not as a philosophical question of whether they bathed or not, but as a specific tool for survival. In the frost, water is expensive. It is difficult to keep liquid, difficult to heat, and must not be wasted. Therefore, hygiene becomes targeted, maintaining cleanliness where it is critically important and not wasting resources on what can wait. Hands are vital because hands touch food, and if hands are dirty, you risk infection. The face is important, especially after exposure to the frost, when the skin is frozen and needs cleaning. The cleanliness of dishes is critical because spoiled food in conditions where there are no doctors and no antibiotics is a direct threat to life. Drying clothes is equally important because wet clothes turn a simple trip outside into suicide. Combing, shaking out the bedding, beating out dust, all this is part of a routine that reduces risks. And once again, here is the most crucial element. Dryness is half the battle against the cold. If the bedding is dry, sleep is safer because the body does not lose heat through damp fabric. If the clothing is dry, going outside does not become a catastrophe because moisture does not freeze on the body and turn you into an ice statue. If the felt is drier, the gear is warmer because moisture reduces the thermal insulation properties of the material dramatically. Now, a moment that adds real drama and shows that survival is not just a matter of setting up the yurt and forgetting it. What happens when the weather changes abruptly? Imagine a midwinter thaw. The temperature rises to -5. The snow becomes heavier and wetter. The felt begins to absorb moisture from the air. It seems like a small thing. It becomes slightly warmer and easier to breathe. But 2 days later, a sharp frost arrives, -30 overnight. And this moisture that the felt has absorbed turns into matted microcrystals of ice inside the fibers. The felt becomes 10 to 15% heavier. Its insulation properties plummet. Seams between the panels may start to breathe, allowing cold air to pass through. The tension of the ropes weakens. If nothing is done, the situation worsens daily. The draft increases, fuel consumption rises, a stronger fire must be maintained just to compensate for the losses. The cold starts to win, slowly but inevitably. What do? They don't panic. They do the work that needs to be done, methodically, quickly, and correctly. They tighten the bindings to restore tension. They overlap the seams with additional strips of felt or hide. If possible, they dry the outer layer, hanging it out in the sun if there is any, or just letting the wind air out the moisture. They remove excess snow from the roof so as not to create unnecessary load. This is like servicing a ship during a storm. In a storm, the one who is bravest doesn't win. The one who takes the correct actions wins. Quickly, without unnecessary emotions, with the understanding that every little thing matters. Or another situation, the wind changes direction. It used to blow from the north, now it blows from the south, and the smoke that went straight up suddenly starts turning back inside the yurt. The air becomes heavy and smoky. Eyes sting, your throat is irritated, children start coughing. At this moment, one must act precisely and quickly. Change the position of the smoke flap valve so that the wind catches the smoke and pulls it outwards rather than blowing it inside. Adjust the opening slightly wider to increase the draft. Change the burning regime. Perhaps add drier fuel to reduce smoke and increase the flame. And again, this is not a movie script. This is real daily life, repeated many times throughout the winter. This is the skill that distinguishes the survivor from the one who suffocates or freezes. And there is another crucial aspect that makes the gur a unique technology. It's not just about warmth, it's about mobility. Mobility in winter is more than just a convenience. It is a chance to survive when conditions become unbearable. Why is it a chance? Because if you are tied to a single house made of brick or stone, and in that location, the fuel runs out, or the fodder for livestock disappears, or snowdrifts block your access to water, you are trapped. You can only wait and hope that you have enough strength to last until spring. But the gur can be dismantled. Not easily, and certainly not with a smile during a storm, but it is possible. An experienced family can take down a gur in 2 to 3 hours. First, the felt coverings are removed and rolled up so they do not get wet during transport. Then, the roof poles are removed one by one and stacked into bundles. Finally, the lattice walls are taken apart. They collapse like an accordion, becoming incredibly compact. The framework, weighing about 100 to 150 kilograms, can be loaded on 2 or 3 horses or yaks. And then comes the relocation. This might be 5 kilometers or it might be 20. It depends on where they find a better location, where the wind is weaker, where hills provide natural protection, or where the livestock can actually reach the grass beneath the snow. At the new location, the assembly begins again. They lay out the lattice walls in a circle. They raise the central crown wheel, the eye of the yurt. They insert the rafters like spokes of a wheel. They lay the felt covers, tighten them with ropes, and close the seams. And they do this so that by nightfall, the gur becomes a home again, warm, safe, and manageable. This ability to move is often the difference between losing the entire herd and saving it, between the exhaustion of the family and the restoration of strength, between life and death. Now for the final question that leads us to our main conclusion. Can we say the Mongols defeated the frost? No, you don't defeat the frost in the steppe. You cannot command it and you cannot stop it. You can only circumvent it. Make it work by your rules, not chaotically. The gur creates a system that turns chaos into predictability. The circular shape deflects the wind. The felt holds heat because it traps air in millions of tiny chambers. The smoke hole provides ventilation, but it is controlled and adjustable based on the weather. The central fire provides a stable thermal core from which heat radiates evenly. Moats cut off the frozen ground, and items near the walls create an additional buffer, a second line of defense. Even the food is technological, designed to provide maximum energy with minimum resources. Fuel is available where there are no forests, created from what the environment itself provides. Livestock are not just animals, they are materials, energy, transport, and insurance. If you look at this not as an exotic tradition, but as a technology that has worked for 3,000 years, one feels a little awkward about our modern overconfidence. We think that without concrete, glass, and central heating, we are helpless against nature. But here, the logic is different. Man builds a home from what the landscape provides: wool, wood, and hides. And he makes it so smart that this house can be disassembled and moved. It is a house that breathes with the wind, not against it. It is a house where survival is not a heroic burst of a single day, but a daily system of correct decisions. When you imagine minus 50 degrees, do not just imagine hopelessness. Imagine the smoke above the round roof, rising straight up, showing that the system works. Imagine hands tightening a rope, not out of desperation, but out of precision. Imagine the chimney damper turned a few degrees and the smoke going exactly where it needed to go. Survival is not a heroic rush at the edge of capabilities. Survival is daily precision. It is understanding the system. It is respect for nature and knowing how to negotiate with it on its own terms. If you liked this engineering analysis, please like and subscribe to the channel. And write in the comments, could a modern house with all its technology withstand such conditions without electricity? Or would this 3,000-year-old technology prove to be more reliable? Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next analysis on Terra Technica.